When my daughter called me a freeloader at her anniversary party, I opened my cheap gift and watched their faces go pale. Hi everyone, it's Lucy here. Before I dive into the story, if you're enjoying what you hear, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. And tell me in the comments, where are you listening from? I love hearing from all of you. Now, let me tell you about the night that changed everything between me and my daughter. I'm 68 years old, and I never thought I'd be sitting here, telling you this story. But life has a way of surprising you, doesn't it? Sometimes it breaks your heart, and sometimes, just sometimes, it gives you a chance to stand up for yourself in ways you never imagined. This is about the night my daughter Jennifer called me a freeloader at her 5th wedding anniversary party, the night her husband Marcus told me to take my cheap gift and leave, and the night I opened that gift in front of everyone and watched their faces drain of color. Let me start from the beginning, because you need to understand how we got here. I raised Jennifer by myself after my husband died when she was just 7 years old. I worked 2 jobs, one as a school secretary during the day and another cleaning offices at night. I wore the same 3 outfits for years. I cut my own hair in the bathroom mirror. I made meals stretch for days. But Jennifer never went without. She had new school supplies every year. She went on field trips. She took piano lessons. And when she wanted to go to college, I made sure she could go without drowning in debt. I'm not telling you this to paint myself as a saint. I'm telling you this because it's the truth. I sacrificed because that's what mothers do. I thought Jennifer understood that. I thought she remembered those years when it was just the 2 of us against the world, eating boxed macaroni and cheese and laughing at late-night television shows because we couldn't afford to go anywhere else. When Jennifer met Marcus 7 years ago, I was happy for her. He came from money, real money. His family owned a chain of car dealerships across 3 states. He wore expensive suits and took Jennifer to restaurants I couldn't even pronounce the names of. At their wedding, I wore a dress I'd bought at a consignment shop and altered myself. I didn't care. I was just proud to see my daughter so happy, walking down that aisle like a princess. But something changed after they got married. Jennifer started visiting less. When she did come by my small apartment, she'd make comments. Little things at first. Mom, you really should update this place. Mom, that couch has seen better days. Mom, don't you want to live somewhere nicer? I'd laugh it off, tell her I was comfortable, that I didn't need much. But the comments kept coming, getting sharper, more pointed. Then she started making excuses for why I couldn't visit them. Their house was being renovated. They were too busy with work. Marcus's family was coming to town. There was always a reason. When I did finally get invited to their home, a sprawling 5-bedroom house in the suburbs with a 3-car garage and a pool, I felt like a stranger. Jennifer gave me a tour like I was a guest, not her mother. Everything was white and pristine and expensive. I was afraid to touch anything. The real trouble started about 2 years into their marriage. I was still working part-time at the school, mostly to keep myself busy and supplement my modest pension. One day, Jennifer called me and asked if I could lend her $5,000. She said they were having some cash flow problems with a business investment Marcus had made. I didn't have that kind of money just sitting around, but she was my daughter. I took out a small loan using my car as collateral and gave her the money. She promised to pay me back within 6 months. That was 3 years ago. Every time I gently brought it up, she'd change the subject or get defensive. We're going through a tough time, Mom. Don't you trust me? I can't believe you're keeping track. Eventually, I stopped asking. The loan payments came out of my account every month, making things tight, but I managed. I always manage. Then came the invitation to their 5th anniversary party. A formal invitation, printed on thick cream cardstock with gold lettering. It felt strange, receiving an invitation to my own daughter's celebration like I was just another guest. But I RSVP'd yes and started thinking about what to give them. I'd been saving something special for years, waiting for the right moment. After my husband died, I'd kept his collection of vintage watches. He'd been a collector, spending years hunting down specific timepieces at estate sales and through collector networks. He'd always said they'd be valuable someday. One watch in particular, a 1960s Rolex Submariner in mint condition, was his pride and joy. He told me that if anything ever happened to him, I should hold on to it for Jennifer. But I'll be honest with you, I'd been having doubts. The way Jennifer had been treating me, the distance between us, the constant subtle digs about my lifestyle, my apartment, my clothes. Part of me wondered if I should sell the watch instead, maybe use the money to move somewhere a bit nicer, take some of the financial pressure off myself. I'd actually had it appraised a few months earlier. The jeweler's eyes had widened when he examined it. "Ma'am," he'd said, "this is worth at least $75,000, possibly more at auction." $75,000. The number had made my head spin. That was more money than I'd made in 3 years of work. That was a new car, a down payment on a small house, security for my future. But it was also my husband's legacy to our daughter. I'd gone home that day with the watch still in my possession, torn about what to do. As the anniversary party approached, I made my decision. I would give Jennifer the watch. Despite everything, she was still my daughter. Maybe this gift would remind her of where she came from, of her father who loved her so much, of the family we'd been before money and status got in the way. I had the watch professionally cleaned and placed it in a simple box. I couldn't afford fancy packaging, but the watch itself was what mattered. The night of the party arrived. I'd bought a new dress, nothing expensive, but something nicer than my usual clothes. I'd spent time on my hair and makeup. I wanted to look presentable for my daughter's big celebration. When I arrived at the event venue, a country club I'd driven past 1,000 times but never entered, I felt my stomach clench with nerves. The place was stunning. Crystal chandeliers, ice sculptures, a live band, tables covered in white linens with elaborate floral centerpieces. There must have been 100 people there, all dressed in designer clothes, laughing and drinking champagne. I clutched my simple gift bag and tried to blend in. Jennifer saw me and waved, but she didn't come over. I watched her work the room, Marcus at her side, both of them playing the perfect couple. I found a seat at a table in the back, next to some people I didn't know. They made polite conversation for a few minutes, then went back to talking among themselves. I sipped water and waited. The gift opening happened after dinner. There was a designated table piled high with wrapped presents, huge boxes with elaborate bows, gift bags stuffed with tissue paper. When it was my turn, Jennifer pulled out my small gift bag with a confused look. She glanced at me, then at Marcus, and I saw something flash in her eyes. Embarrassment? Annoyance? "This is from my mom," she announced to the room, her voice tight. She reached in and pulled out the simple box. How quaint. Some people laughed. My cheeks burned. I wanted to shrink into my chair and disappear. But it got worse. So much worse. Marcus leaned over and stage whispered, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear, "What did the freeloader bring this time?" More laughter rippled through the crowd. My heart dropped into my stomach. Freeloader. My own son-in-law had just called me a freeloader in front of all these people. Jennifer didn't defend me. She didn't say a word. Instead, she set the box aside without opening it and reached for the next gift. That's when something inside me snapped. All the years of sacrifice, all the times I'd bitten my tongue, all the little insults I'd swallowed, it all came rushing up at once. "Jennifer," I said, standing up. My voice shook, but I kept going. "Open it. Please." She looked at me with irritation. "Mom, we have a lot of gifts to get through. Open it." My voice was stronger now. "Or I'll open it for you." The room had gone quiet. People were staring. Jennifer's face flushed red, whether from anger or embarrassment, I couldn't tell. Marcus stepped forward, his face twisted in contempt. "Listen, Lucy," he said, using my first name like we were strangers, "maybe you should just take your cheap gift and leave. You've always been a burden on Jennifer, always asking for things, always needing help. We've been more than generous with you, and this is how you act at our celebration?" I felt like I'd been slapped. Asking for things? Needing help? I'd ask them for nothing. The $5,000 they'd never repaid me flashed through my mind. The years I'd raised Jennifer alone. The sacrifices. And suddenly, I was done being quiet. "I'll leave," I said clearly. "But first, I'm going to open this gift. Everyone here should see what a cheap gift from a freeloader looks like." I walked up to the gift table, picked up the box, and opened it. My hands were steady now, fueled by a righteous anger I'd never felt before. I pulled out the watch, holding it up so the light caught the face, the pristine stainless steel band, the distinctive Rolex crown. This, I said to the room, was my late husband's watch. A 1960s Rolex Submariner. He bought it 35 years ago and kept it in perfect condition. He always said it would go to Jennifer someday. I turned to look at my daughter, whose face had gone absolutely pale. I had it appraised recently. It's worth $75,000. The silence in that room was deafening. You could have heard a pin drop. Jennifer's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Marcus looked like he'd been turned to stone. I saw some of the guests pulling out their phones, probably Googling vintage Rolex watches to verify what I'd just said. I was going to give this to you tonight, I continued, my voice breaking just slightly. Despite everything, despite the distance between us, despite being called names and treated like I'm nothing, I was going to give you this because you're my daughter and because your father loved you. But instead, I think I'll keep it. Or maybe I'll sell it. I could use a new car. Maybe even move to a nicer apartment. Wouldn't that make you happy, Jennifer? I carefully placed the watch back in its box and tucked it into my purse. Then I looked around the room at all those fancy people in their expensive clothes. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Lucy. I raised Jennifer by myself after my husband died. I worked 2 jobs so she could have everything she needed. I paid for her college. I gave her every advantage I could, even when it meant I had nothing for myself. And the $5,000 she borrowed from me 3 years ago? I'm still making loan payments on that. Jennifer made a choking sound. Marcus had turned from pale to red, his jaw clenched. But I wasn't done. So when you call me a freeloader, I said, looking directly at Marcus, remember that everything your wife has, everything she became, came from a woman who lived on macaroni and cheese so her daughter could take piano lessons. Remember that when you're counting your money and patting yourself on the back for being so generous. I turned to leave, and that's when Jennifer found her voice. Mom, wait, she rushed forward, reaching for my arm. I didn't mean, Marcus didn't mean. Yes, you did, I said quietly. You've meant it for a while now. I've seen it in every look, every comment, every excuse for why I couldn't be part of your life. I just didn't want to believe it. Please, she said, and there were tears in her eyes now. Please don't go. We can talk about this. There's nothing to talk about, I said. You made it very clear how you see me. How you both see me. I looked at Marcus, who still couldn't meet my eyes. Enjoy your party. I walked out of that country club with my head held high, even though my legs were shaking and tears were streaming down my face. I got in my old car and drove home to my small apartment, and I sat on my worn-out couch and cried for hours. Not because of the watch, though that hurt, but because of the daughter I'd apparently lost somewhere along the way. That was 4 days ago. Since that night, my phone has been ringing constantly. Jennifer has called 47 times. She's left voicemails crying, apologizing, begging me to call her back. Marcus has called too, his messages stiff and awkward, saying they want to make things right. Jennifer has shown up at my apartment twice. I didn't answer the door. Yesterday, I received a check in the mail for $5,000 with a note in Jennifer's handwriting. I'm so sorry. For everything. Please forgive me. This morning, another letter came. She's written pages and pages, talking about how she got caught up in Marcus's world, how his family looked down on her background, and she felt like she had to distance herself from it, from me. How she's been ashamed of being ashamed, and how seeing me stand up in that room made her realize what she'd become. I don't know if I believe her. Or maybe I do believe her, but I don't know if believing her is enough. The trust between us is broken. The relationship we had, or that I thought we had, might be beyond repair. And that watch, that $75,000 symbol of everything I sacrificed and everything my husband left behind, is sitting in my jewelry box now. I look at it and I feel sad, but I also feel something else. Something like strength. Because I stood up for myself. After years of taking every insult, every slight, every dismissal with a smile and quiet acceptance, I finally said enough. I showed them and I showed myself that I have value. That my sacrifices meant something. That I deserve respect. Will I forgive Jennifer? I honestly don't know. Part of me wants to. She's my daughter, and I've loved her from the moment she was born. But part of me is still standing in that country club, hearing myself called a freeloader, watching my daughter's face as she almost threw aside my gift without even looking at it. That part of me is still hurt, still angry, still wondering how we got here. I'm going to take some time. I'm going to focus on myself for once. Maybe I will sell that watch and get a nicer place. Maybe I'll even take a vacation. I've never been on a real vacation in my life. Maybe I'll keep the watch and pass it on to someone who actually appreciates what it represents. I don't know yet. But for the first time in a long time, I'm making decisions based on what I want, not what everyone else needs from me. So that's my story. That's how one cheap gift changed everything. That's how I went from being called a freeloader to being the woman who stood up and reclaimed her dignity. It's messy and it's painful, and I don't know how it ends yet. But I'm still standing. And sometimes that's enough. Thanks so much for listening to my story today. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories. And seriously, drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from. I read every single one. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself in a difficult family situation? Let me know in the comments below. Remember, you teach people how to treat you. Don't be afraid to set boundaries, even with the people you love most. Until next time, take care of yourselves. You're worth it.